We're here in Herman, Missouri at the Deutschheim, which is the German home. And the German home is one of the only museums in the United States that's dedicated to the history of the German people. And what a lot of people don't realize is that about over 20% of the people in the United States have some German heritage. And here in Missouri, it's almost 50%. Of course, it's much more than that in Herman, but you get the idea. When you come here, you can expect to find yourself steeped in why the Germans came to this country. Why would they come out here to what was then a wilderness in the early 19th century and settle in this place? Why they named it Herman, and then how they built their homes and how they lived. You could be from any part of Germany, you could be a recent immigrant, but they wanted to make sure that they had people that represented the different types of tasks and duties that needed to be done in this town. We have two homes that are available for you to tour at this time. One is a middle-class home, and it's a rather substantial brick home, and the other one looks like a substantial brick home, which it is sort of, but it's more of a provincial or lower-class design. You can see some of the fireplaces, of course, but you can see some of the stoves, both coal burning and wood burning. And also there are beds, and there's some clothing set up on the beds. There are many artifacts, including musical instruments. There's a table setting. It looks like it's all ready for dinner to be served in the dining table. There's another room that's set aside where they had their shop, and there's a few basic tools in that shop as well. There are some gardens. There are two styles of gardens here. The one at the Palmer house is basically laid out with nice wide paths so they could get their carts up and down. And they would plant things in there that would be complementary, that is, and rotate crops and things like that. So they could easily get to them and move things around. The other style, it goes down the hill, and so it's like a tiered garden, and that's over at the Straley house. Remember, the gardens weren't just good for their vegetables, they also had to have their herbs and things like that. So you got peppermint and all kinds of other things. And of course, you always had to have some flowers. So there's almost any time of the year during the growing season, you're going to find some flowers that are blooming. Winemaking was something that they turned to almost as soon as they got here. In fact, by 1920, when Prohibition hit, 2/3 of the households were involved in winemaking. So you can imagine when Prohibition hit, that had a disastrous effect. The Straley house, the second one, actually has a winery attached to it that they built in the 1850s. And so winemaking was a very laborious process. And each of the families had a small plot in town, but they also owned vineyards that were on the outside of town. So the Straleys, as an example, had about 3 acres of vines outside of town that they used. What's so unique about the more provincial home is that in the basement is a printing press. For 12 years they printed abolitionist newspapers. They made their cloth with materials other than cotton for the most part here in Herman, because they did not want to support the slave industry. And so as a result, what happened was that the people used wool and they used flax. And we do a little demonstration and show you how they did the flax, and if you've never seen that, you need to come.